Hello everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is July the 13th, 2023. And I'm coming to you from southwestern Ontario, which is the southernmost tip of Canada. I am an hour from Detroit, if that helps some of you to put in perspective exactly where I'm located. And my channel is mostly about finished objects, although I don't ever seem to finish as many objects as I would like. So I supplement it with some other things, and those that have been around know that I love to talk about hand-dyed yarn, and I am on a quest this year to find as many Canadian hand dyers as possible, just because the exchange rate is unbelievable and it's hit and miss what I have to do about crossing the border. So in order to save a little bit, I'm trying to buy Canadian and share that. Not that the Americans can't buy Canadian. You would actually be saving money because the exchange to your currency is better. So anyway, I just added all that information. I don't do that every week, but I added it because surprising to me, in the last month or less, since I did the Christmas in July fairies, I'll talk about that in a minute, which would have went out around the 15th of June. So it's almost 4 weeks ago. I have increased my membership 110 people. I now have 930 subscribers, and you know how I'm working so hard to get to 1,000. So made big progress in achieving that goal in the last month. So I begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel here. So I just wanted for all of those new people to know a little bit about me and what this channel is about. And I know they subscribed when they did the Christmas in July fairies. I hope that they will stay around and join us in sharing in all the yarny goodness that goes on this channel. And a quick note about Christmas in July fairies. Hopefully you saw the very short video I put out a couple of days ago where I announced that Diana Garms was the winner from my channel, and she will be getting a gradient cake in the mail one day soon, and her name has been passed on to Dana, I think it's called Wanderlust Crochet, who will be picking a grand prize winner. And you know, your chances are better this year because I noticed, I don't know what last year was like, but I followed it for a couple of years when it first started. And they had like 150 or 160 different channels participating. Now, that's really great for the grand prize winner. Imagine how many prizes they're going to get. But that means that there are 150 or 60 channels submitting a name. This year, I noticed that there was like about 24 channels. So that means that there are only 24 names in the draw. So your chances have really increased in winning. And then you'll get a gift from every one of the creators that participated. Now, they are not all crocheters. They are not even all in the needle arts. But a lot of them are giving monetary donations that can be used at Amazon or something like that. So it's a good prize to win no matter what. So I'm going to move on. I will tell you before I go any further that I'm feeling kind of discombobulated is the best word I can come up with today for some reason. I don't know what is doing it. I don't know if it's because I'm a little tired, and also because, once again, here we are in my family room instead of in the room where I usually videotape. lights are not working. It looks like I'm going to have to replace the fluorescent banks in the ceiling. And I put out a call to a handyman I've known for years and years and years. And he is a very busy man. So how long it'll be before he gets here, I don't know. It's not a big job once he does get here. And he said he will get here as soon as he can. So for a while, and maybe a month or more, we're going to be here. And I have to bring things in and out every time I do a video. But, and you have this boring wall behind me rather than the, I think the yarn wall is much more interesting. So for those that are new, I don't usually tape in front of this paneling. I'm usually in front of yarn. But anyway, we will muster forth. But what I will tell you is that because of what is planned for today, I'm going to be chopping this up. In other words, doing this video in pieces. So it'll be a bit of stopping and starting, and you'll understand why as we proceed. So where do I always start? I try to start with a finished object. And I do have a finished object that I finished on the weekend. And I'm pretty happy with it. So I'll bring it in. Here it is. It is a shawl. See if you get a good look at the back. And it's done with a gradient cake. And a gradient cake when they're cotton, and I don't know if this one's 100% cotton or 45, 55 cotton acrylic, but they all have 1,000 meters and 1,094 yards in the cake. And I had this much left over at the bottom. This particular pattern has 75 rows plus a bit of a border. I think I only did 73 rows. It's quite large, and I was getting tired, and the bottom was pretty plain. But just so you can see up close, it was a pretty straightforward pattern. The pattern is called Bella Vita. It's a pattern. I will link it in the description box for sure. And the pattern was by Wilma Westenberg. So that's two of hers I've done recently. And I plan probably to do another one before the summer's over. And I think I'm going to contact her and see if she will let me interview her and be our designer focus in September. But it was fairly straightforward. A lot of plain double crochet rows, but it does have a repeating pattern where there is open work, and it has puffs and then different open lace work. And I kind of did my own thing for the lacy bottom. And I have to tell you, it's an easy enough pattern, but when you're using the gradient cakes, especially, where did I put mine? Oh, there it is. This one was a nice twisted one, but you know, sometimes they are split, the 4-ply. This does split easy enough, but when you're doing a puff and you've got 9 loops on your hook, I get them caught most of the time, so that's why I don't care for puffs. If it's a thicker fiber, I don't mind them as much, but puffs aren't my thing. But anyway, this is my finished object, and it's a pattern on Ravelry, but she always has a link to her blog so you can get the free pattern. And a lot of times she has a tutorial. I don't believe there was a tutorial with this one. In actual fact, it was her mother's pattern. Her mother designed it and she wrote it up for her. So anyway, pretty straightforward. I have one more shawl to add to my growing collection. So Next thing I want to do, because you know what July is all about. July is about Christmas in July. And I have an advent calendar to share with you for this month. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to open up the next 7. We got as far as, it was July the 6th last Thursday. So we're going to start with number 7 and open up the next 7. Now, very quickly, here are the first 6. Quite a wide variety of colors, a mix of solid and speckles. So, number 7, let's see what we have in store there. Oh, another neutral, and I like this one too. Yes, nice to go with just about anything. And I will pin it on the board here. Now we go on to number 8. Got a frog in my throat. And here's a solid. We're getting a wide variety of colors for sure. Number 9. Oh, that goes good with that. Another solid. I would say it's a dark chocolate brown, but you know, it has overtones of being purple. Yeah, I can see that, overtones of purple. And number 10. I like this. I'm wondering if when they came in the original package, they were in some kind of gradient type layout, because this goes so well with the very first one. But I didn't look real close as soon as I realized I could see everything. Ouch. I think that was 10, so this is 11. Ooh. That's a nice color. I know it's not in my color wheel, but you know, that is a nice, rich pumpkin, maybe? Pumpkin orange, or yeah, I like it. And it would go very nice with that yellowy, pinky orange one that we had last week. Makes me think these were in some kind of an order when they were sent. And 12. This goes nice with that other one from last week. Remember the one that I oohed and awed over so long? Wow, that would look really nice with it. Oh, I see hints of some blue in there and pink as well as the purple. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Okay, so see if we can get that to. And finally, today, the 13th. I love opening, oh nice, I love opening advent calendars. I'd love to open one every month, but they're not particularly cheap. Now there is a nice rich color too. I really like this. I know that these are 10 grams each, which means there's probably 45 yards in it, and I have 25. that's 1,100, a little over 1,100 yards. That's a pretty big shawl, but there are some that are 1,200, so might be useful for that. Or I may very well be splitting it into two groups. I can see certain ones that go together here. Or I may take a solid and put some, I'm going to do a number of those, a solid color, and then put some minis in to make a splash of color. So there's where we are. See how I think this one would look so nice with this. And then the purple and the purple. And two very nice neutrals, the brown and the black. This would go with this one, maybe that. So really some very pretty colors here. And this one I can see with this. So really nice. So we have another full week and then a partial week after that to finish it up. So we're halfway through. We've done 13. We have 12 more to go. So I'll just move that aside and hope it stays standing. Okay. So what's the next thing on our agenda for today? Well, today being July the 13th, it is the beginning of our summer cal, and we are working on the Just Feel Festive pattern together. And as I have noted in the description box, it's available 3 different ways. And I wanted to spend a little time talking with you about it, and just because I got the feeling that 1 or 2 people were having a bit of a problem, I'm going to try and do a demonstration. I've never done it on camera, but I will have to go shut off, rearrange things, and start again in a little bit. I am going to see if I can't rearrange my little bit of equipment here to show you how to proceed with this pattern. But before I do that, I want to talk about what I have done. Now, when all the times I was talking about this pattern, I said in the past videos that I was going to use this one. I was going to make a narrow version of the pattern and make a scarf out of it, and this would be nice as a scarf. Well, I have to tell you, I did something funny on the weekend, on Sunday or Monday, doesn't really matter. I think it was Sunday. I had finished this shawl Saturday evening, so I was going to start this on Sunday, and I did start it. Here's the start of what I did, and as you can see, there's nothing here. I pulled it out after about 5 rows and put it all back in the center here. I'll tell you why. First of all, it wasn't as great feeling as I thought it should be for a scarf. I mean, it'd be okay for something else. It's not terrible feeling, but I didn't really like the feel of it. I didn't really like the look of it or the color of it. I don't think it lends itself to something like a granny square pattern. The other thing that was irritating me, have you ever had, I've had it happen before when you get those donuts, your yarn is in a donut, and they come out and they get all twirled up and they twirl on themselves, and this was doing that bad, big time, twirling up in itself. And I didn't feel like fighting with it. I also thought that maybe if I started on the outside instead of the inside, it would be better. Although I found with that kind of yarn, when something does that, it does it. And they tell me, from what I know, it has to do with the twist in the yarn itself. And that's why I'm sure some of you know about the Z twist yarn, because we use the yarn in a certain way and move, we are twisting the yarn as we use it. And a Z-twist yarn is purposely twisted in such a way that that won't happen when you're using it. I don't know about regular yarns, but this one was bad. And I said, I don't have the patience today to deal with it. So I took it out and put it aside. Well, in the meantime, I needed something to work on. And I did something I don't usually ever do. I started 3 more, after I took that one out, I started 3 more projects on Sunday. One of the projects I started was my July cow based on the larkspur flower. And I started it and put it aside and then started these other 2 I'm going to show you. And I'm happy to say that I worked on it Monday and, well, Sunday night, Monday, and finished it Tuesday, I think. Doesn't matter what day. I finished it, and I will likely show it to you next week. Next week's the 20th. Yeah, I will show you my finished item for the July cow. But I also started 2 more versions of Just Feel Festive shawl, and I'll tell you why. After I finished with that, I thought, well, I want to find something that is a nice feeling, what I call a comfy yarn. Has to be a DK weight. Because it doesn't have to be. You can use any weight you want. But because the instructions say use 2 fingering weights to make a DK, I thought, I'm going to stick with this DK weight for our cow. So I got thinking about yarn I had, and I came up with the idea that I would use one of my mill ends that I just got, and I wanted to use the alpaca. The alpaca mill end is so nice and soft, and if you've had any alpaca before, you know it's very soft. And I thought, I'm going to use one of these mill end cakes. I won't need the entire thing because it's 900 and some yards. I think it's 974, but I'm not sure. And I thought I might be able to make 2 scarves out of this. So I got this one out just because it was colorful and decided to start from the outside and go in. And I will just end when I feel like ending. And I started this Just Feel Festive shawl. And I have this much done on it. Now you can see, and we'll get into this in more detail later, you can see how the edge is sloping in this direction, and at the other end it is also sloping in that direction. And I just have a stitch marker to hold to hold the space. That I'll explain why I put a stitch marker in there later. So I've done this much, and I can see that I won't be too much farther, and I'm going to be fading into the next color. So I started this one and did a little bit. I just wanted to be familiar with the pattern. And then I thought, you know, the pattern actually talks about using minis. The whole thing was designed to use advent calendar minis, and they say to use 2 strands. And my thinking was, well, if I use 2 strands, in other words, work from the outside and the inside of a mini, you get about 45 yards. And I didn't know how far that would go. And I was thinking I might want it to go farther. So a lot of things are going through my mind. First of all, I did find a mini set. It's a mini set I showed you not terribly long ago of what I call pastel colored minis that I got from Australia. And there are 12 in that set. And I thought, okay, if I use the full mini, not doubling it, if I use the full mini, that's a decent amount for a wrap. And when I was getting them out of the cupboard, I came across that I had put aside 2 skeins of Blossom Fingering from Expression Fiber Arts. And I thought, oh, it was white. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. I can put one strand of the white with a strand of the minis. So I have them. I've shown you this big Sully a while back, and I have my mini in there and my larger skein. And by the way, in both cases, this is my dots hook, and you can see I'm using a 5. And over here I have a furl streamline, and you can see I'm using a 5.0 millimeter in both cases. So I decided to put one strand of the mini with one strand of white, and it makes a decent thickness, and about the same thickness as the other one. Now, putting white with all of the colors is going to cause all of the colors to be a little paler than they are on their own. And if I had doubled them and used 2 strands of the one color, they would be even darker. But the thing is, it's a multicolored or variegated yarn, and when you put some from both ends together, you're going to get a real multicolored strand of yarn. And I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to put it together. So here's what now this one is wider. This one I am doing a wrap. So if you put it, I don't know, you can't really tell where it comes on me. Okay, it's at the points at my waist coming up over my shoulder. So I definitely want this to be like wrap size. So I'm going to be doing 2 different sizes. The first one is scarf size, and this one is wrap size. Okay, maybe if I hold them up, you can see, wrong end. This one goes this far, and the other one goes wider. So this is a pattern that can be any width you want, and really it can be any weight you want, but I'm doing these both in a DK weight for now, just because it says that. But I wouldn't mind doing one of these in a single strand of fingering, and I think it would bring it in smaller and tighter, because with a single strand of fingering you would probably be using a 3.5 or 4 millimeter, so everything would become smaller. And I'd be interested if somebody does that, if they would let me know and show us the results. So that's what I am working on for the pattern. Okay, now again, you can be working on anything you want. Notice that. Now, I know there are people that do not like granny squares. They don't like the openness, the holy. But a granny square is something that pretty much everybody knows how to make. And that's why I picked this one as something basic to start with. I definitely, if you decide you'd like me to do another cal together, I definitely will pick something a step up. But I wanted to get everybody, even the brand new beginners who haven't done much, to be able to participate. I have to interject with a new video. I had to edit out some of what I did yesterday. And when I looked at the part where I was trying to do a sort of semi-tutorial, it did not work at all. For some reason, even though I wasn't under the brightest of lights, it had a very high light exposure, and I couldn't get far enough away for the camera to focus, and it was blurry, and the color of the yarn, which I'm showing you, this pink, seemed to make it that much brighter. It didn't work, I'm sorry to say. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments from what I did do with this. And the first is that the written pattern is done, excuse me, The written pattern is done very well. It's very easy to follow, and it is only a 2-row repeat. Once you do the first row, which is a setup row, then you do row 2 and 3, and 2 and 3 are repeated through the whole thing. The other thing is that I did go and check out the tutorial on YouTube by Zelda NRJ3, and she did a fine job. I could not have done better than her anyway. And I will link both the written pattern and the YouTube tutorial for you to look at. There's just 2 things I want to say, I want to emphasize, and she emphasizes it. When you make the chain and turn to do the next row, as I have here, you skip the first space and you do your cluster in the second space. That's the first thing to watch very carefully. She also reminds you that every time you're done a cluster, mine's starting to come out, you chain 1 before you do the next cluster. The one thing I want to add is when you are at the end of the row where you chain up and then do 2 more double crochets in the first stitch, after you've done that cluster, I'm going to suggest that you go back and find the top of the chain 3 and put in a stitch marker. And I'll tell you why. I mean, you don't have to. Some of you are good enough that you don't have to worry about it. But what I find is when I've made that cluster, it's easy enough to see 1, 2, there's the chain 3. It's easy enough to put a stitch marker in to hold that stitch, that chain open. After I do the row and come back, I find that this chain 3 often just seems to tighten up. And then it's really hard to find the top of that chain 3 to make that cluster at the end of the row. That's the extra cluster after you do all of the spaces so that it grows. And you can see it grows on this side and it decreases on this side, and they don't look exactly the same. But that's what it is. So I'm hoping that you're okay with the fact that I didn't do anything to show you how to do it. And like I said, Z does a great job on her tutorial. You should have no problem following her if you need a tutorial. Most of you, I'm sure, can just read the pattern, and it's very, very easy. The other thing I wanted to encourage people to do is to also make use of the Ravelry page. So I just wanted to take a minute to show you, when you're on Ravelry, across the top there, you will see community. So if you hit community, you get a drop-down menu and you go to where it says groups. See that? Groups, and you click on groups. I'm going through this for some of the new people that have joined my channel because you may not be familiar with this, and I'll say a word about that in a minute. Now, when you get here, you will see lots and lots of groups, and you could, you know, browse through them forever to try to find my group. But since I formed it back early in the year, it would take forever. But up here, there is a spot that says search groups. And if you put in Judy's Creations 21 or even just Judy's Creations, I'm sure it would bring up my group, which looks like this. Same logo I use on my videos. So if you press that, it goes here to my page. My page looks like that with that weird look. That's just because of the size of the graphic, but you recognize it. There are some of the people in my in my group. Now, what I want to show you is I have 2 threads there. The first one is the flower cowl. Oh, it changed order. Yesterday, flower cowl was first. And that's where everybody goes monthly to put in their pictures of what they're making each month for that monthly cowl. But I also have the summer cowl there. And if you click that on, it opens up and I have 1 entry there right now that gives you some information about this group. And it goes from today, July the 13th until August the 24th. And I'm really hoping that people, oh, we've had an entry since I last looked. Somebody that's new to me. I'll read that in a little bit. But I am really, really hoping it looks like she's started on her Just Feel Festive shawl. And I will post the yarns I'm using today, and then in a day or two, I'll post my progress that you've already seen on those 2 that I've started. And as I said, I'm going to work on them a little at a time. But what I'd really, really like is for all of you that are working on this shawl to get involved. Make this like a little community. And at the bottom, see that? Reply to thread. You can just hit that and then a box will come up and you can make a comment, add a picture. And for those that aren't really, really sure on how to do some of this, I did a series of tutorials on using Ravelry, a lot of different ways, a lot of different things you can do on Ravelry. And I will post, I think I did 3. I will post links to those 3. They aren't all about the community. Some are other things. One thing you need to know, to post a picture in the community group, you have to have a project page. And I talk about how to make a project page with a project back in those videos. So I will attach, or I will put links in the description box on how to participate on this as well. Now, the other thing is she's made a comment, and you could go to the bottom of her comment and you see there, reply, and then there's other things you can hit. But reply me to this in the white box means you are responding to her. So maybe you want to add a comment. I really like her color, so I'm going to make a comment when I finish this video telling her I like the colors she chose. But if you want to add your own comment, you use reply to thread down here. So I hope people will use this. You know, put your progress in maybe once a week. Make comments on other people's things. If you have a question or a problem, you can pop it in here, ask the question, and I will try to look at this daily. Obviously, I haven't looked today, but I did look yesterday. So I'll be trying to look daily to see if there are any questions people have. So I hope you will make use of this group and enjoy, get involved and enjoy the process of doing this cowl together. So that's what I wanted to add to my information about the cowl. And once again, say that unfortunately, my little tutorial didn't work. I do not have the proper setup, and I think I have great lights for making a video, but it was too much light for our purposes of a tutorial. But that's fine. There is a great tutorial out there. So good luck in getting started. And by next week, maybe I'll see a number of you have posted some information, and I'll mention it again in next week's video. So now, back to the regular podcast. Now, one more thing before we are finished for the day. I couldn't let the day go by without, I know I showed you Advent yarn, but I felt like showing you one more, I guess you call it acquisition. You know that I belong to a yarn subscription from Arkansas Yarn Society. They call this the Arkansas Sock Yarn Society. So once a month, I get 2 skeins of yarn from them with a number of goodies. This month's theme is I Am Dragon. So anyhow, I'll show you the little extras first. I got a tickle in my throat. Hang on just a second. Okay, so the first thing in this package is a rose sweater clay progress keeper from a company called Simply Serving. I don't know how to say that word, but anyhow, see the clay sweater with a rose on it? And it is a progress keeper. Can be used by either knitter or crocheter. Has the lever back on it. Now that'll go on my tree in the other room. Then there is a mini fairy sweater pattern, and it's by Dragon Horde Yarn. Now, I'm going to show you the sweater pattern. It's teeny, and it comes with a little hanger. Oh, I'm way off camera. It comes with a little hanger to hang that little mini sweater. Unfortunately, the pattern is knit, and we know Judy does not knit, and I'm not about to start knitting. So I'm going to put this aside, and sometime when somebody wins a prize down the road that I happen to know is a knitter, I'm going to include this. There's no yarn. I'm going to include this in their little goodies package. So you get a surprise one day. Then there is, this is Dragon Fruit Desire Herbal. It's open tea leaves, but it has a tea bag you can put it in. I'm not a tea drinker. I'm not a coffee drinker. And so when I get these, again, I put them aside until somebody wins that I think might like this. I have tea bags quite often, flavored teas that I send people. So tea, I don't drink. Then there is, that's loose leaf tea. Then there is the lever back. Okay, I get, as always, the Arkansas in colors. Now, see what a beautiful color this is? You know, it almost always, I'll give you a hint, it almost always matches the yarn. And then there is an extra progress keeper, they call it. I call them stitch markers, and it's in the shape of a rose. So it kind of ties into the rose that's on this sweater. So there we go, a rose. And one of the other extras goes right along with things, and it is a Wee Dragon mini skein. And here is the mini skein. I suppose this mini skein would make that sweater, but I'm keeping this mini skein, even though I may give away the pattern. And you can guess this mini skein matches the yarn for the month. I have 2 of them. I Am Dragon. And as always, it is 75 merino, 15 nylon, and 10 stellina. I always get the stellina version. I could change, but you know me and my sparkle. I'm quite sure you can see the sparkle. You definitely cannot feel it in there. The yarn feels yummy, and they call it their yummy sparkle. And if you don't get sparkle, you can get just the plain yummy single. And I have 2 of them, and they each have 437 yards, so that's enough to make a shawl. and it definitely is yummy. Yummy. I really, really like it. And look at the colors. This would have been great for February for our violets. I've been getting a lot of that lately, but it is a very popular combination, the purple and the greens. And this one is really quite pretty. So as always, I am happy with my Arkansas subscription. Even though I'm not buying a lot of yarn, I always okay that purchase because I just really enjoy their yarn so much. And every now and then you get a mini with them, and I'm keeping them and seeing what I can do with them. So that's all I have to show you this week. Because I've done this in pieces, I don't know how long the video is going to be, but I think this is a good point to stop for now. And next week we will move on with Christmas in July. I am really enjoying that so far. And I'm really hoping to find a project. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Yes, I have those other two on the go, but like I said, a little each week. So I will wait till the weekend to do more on them. So my goal or my job when I get off this video today is to go look through patterns and decide what I'm going to work on next. And hopefully I can get another finished object to show you next week. Now I've decided next week will be the week that I show you yarn from Canadian dyers. There are many more. I want to tell you, I came across a site that had a listing of Canadian dyers by province. It's a very long list, and I'm going to spend time going through it and eventually purchasing from many of the dyers on that list. So I've got lots of potential purchases ahead of me. A little at a time though, as you know, I'm saving up for that shed. But somebody asked me to come up with a list of dyers or tell them what dyers I use. So I went through my stash, I mentioned this, and I pulled out 1 or 2 skeins from every Canadian dyer that I have. And they are sitting on a table over there. You know what I'm going to do when I get off here? I'm going to take a picture of it so that you can see what's coming. And I'm going to put the picture up here. And these are the yarns we are going to look at next week. And I'm going to talk about what I remember about each company, what I can tell you about what they feel like, and pick out a couple that I consider my favorite. I already know who my favorite is, and you probably do too if you've been watching me for a while. And I think we're going to look at a whole lot of yarn next week, and I hope you enjoy doing that. So guess what? I don't have a hook in here with me because I took the other yarn out of here. But until next week, happy hooking.